Hey, what's up guys, Ben here and welcome back to the OnlyAccies YouTube channel. Now today I have something very exciting. I'm going to be sitting down with a former Hamilton player who's clocked up more than 250 appearances for Accies, as well as playing in the Premier League with Southampton, Burnley and Brighton, and is currently the head of youth development at Kilmarnock. So sit down, relax, and welcome to a conversation with Paul McDonald. Paul, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it, man. You're our first proper interview on OnlyAccies, which is very exciting. Probably best to start at the beginning. How did that initial move to Hamilton come around?
To be honest, I was playing with a boys' club in Motherwell, Mary Street Boys' Club, under the guidance of a man called Bert McShane. Bert was our manager, and he used to kind of take me in trials to clubs that came in for me. I'd been an S form at Motherwell from about 13 to 15, got released for being too small. Went back, played in my boys' club, and then I actually went to France. I was invited to go to France with Motherwell for a tournament, an under-18 tournament. I went there, I came back, and I had a message to come over to Hamilton to meet John Lambie. I come over, met John very briefly. I was asked to sign, and signed in the dotted line and joined Accies in I think it was June 86.
What was it like, obviously being from Motherwell? I'm assuming your family are football fans, sure that's a big part of your life. What did they say when you said you're signing for Hamilton?
Oh, I think the family were delighted. My brother's a red hot Motherwell fan. So he took a bit of convincing, still does to this day. But no, they were delighted obviously that I'd signed for a senior club, and I was becoming a full-time professional at that time, albeit a young apprentice type professional.
You mentioned John Lambie there. John Lambie's somebody that my family have a connection with. You knew my late Uncle John, who was a lifelong Hamilton fan. He handed over signed balls whenever he could. He seems like a great guy. What was he like to work under, obviously, as manager?
He was a hard taskmaster, John. He liked to give young players an opportunity at the times that suited them, but it was very much an experienced type player manager. At that time we had a couple of young lads in and around the kind of first team environment. It was myself, Alan Ferguson, Jim Weir. And in fairness to John, he gave all of us an opportunity, and latterly obviously Chris Hillcock. But he wasn't afraid to throw us in, dipped us in and out, but then we'd go back to his tried and tested professionals at that time.
And do you think that's how young players should be kind of bled into the team, in and out when suits? Or obviously being academy director, do you like to see young players get the chance as much as they possibly can, or do you think it depends on the player, maybe how much they come in and out?
It depends on the player, it depends on the club. I think John showed his experience as a manager to do what he done at that time, and probably rightly so, as much as young players think they should be playing week in, week out. But I think dipping them in and out at the right time, and obviously it depends on the player, it depends on the performances, and like any other player, the performances will go up and down. But as I say, it's always good to get opportunities if you're a young player at your club.
Do you think there's maybe, not just in Scottish football, but football in general, maybe too much pressure put sometimes on young players to come in and not carry the team, but to make such a big impact at such a young age? I think that pressure sometimes is too much.
I think the pressure, particularly in the SPFL, is to stay in the league, and to try and promote young players in that environment is extremely difficult, and there will be a pressure on the young players at that time. But as I say, it's a sign of the times just now, and we have a number of young players playing in the Premier League as it is just now, earning their right and doing themselves justice.
Absolutely. Now we've got the first team players downstairs doing a press conference now for the Celtic game coming up. You've got quite a good history with Celtic actually. Last time Hamilton won at home, you were voted man of the match. I did some research. A newspaper, this was their headline. The confidence and class of young Paul McDonald was an inspiration, is what they said. So what was it like being only 21 at the time, beating one of the best teams in Scotland? What was that like?
I think at any age it's always good to beat the best teams in Scotland, and at that time we probably got Celtic in an off day, and we played at the top of our game at that time. From memory, I think there was a mistake in the Celtic defence that allowed Stuart Gordon to score the first goal, and luckily I created the second goal for him to score as well. But it was a great occasion for us as a club at that time, battling against the big boys in the Premier League, and as I say, to beat Celtic was great.
Did you find that, as you talked about pressure being put on young players yourself, obviously at the time, did you like that attention, that pressure? Did that feel your own, or was it something maybe you weren't too keen on getting that much press at such a young age?
No, I think I probably enjoyed the attention. The fact that big clubs were watching, were showing an interest. Sometimes it affects you, sometimes you think too much about it, and if you're having a poor game then it's got a negative effect. At that time, I thought I enjoyed it. I had a lot of press in regards to interest from bigger clubs, probably 19, 20, but it took me till 25 to actually get a move. So between those years, it was a learning curve for me.
Speaking of that move, obviously you went down to Southampton down in England, playing on likes of people like Matt Letizia and all that. How did you find that jump from the Scottish leagues down to the English leagues? What was that jump like for you as a player?
I think the environment was completely different. Obviously the standard of player, when you name the likes of Matt Letizia and other players that were in and around the Southampton team at that time, Bruce Grobbelaar, Barry Venison, Jim Midgelton was there, Neil Shipperley, Ian Dowie. So they had a lot of big names in and around the kind of English game. But on the training pitch and in the games, and I never get to play too many first team games, but I think mostly in the training environment, I think if you're a decent player and you have belief in yourself, then I think there's an opportunity for you to be able to handle that environment.
So speaking of down England, you also played for Burnley and Brighton, and you were quite important in Brighton's history. At that time, they were on the brink of what was then called oblivion, dropping out of the third division. What was the atmosphere like at that club at the time, with the players and the fans, to be so close to your club not existing almost?
Brighton was a hell of an experience. Fantastic club, fantastic supporters, and at the time I joined, we were in what's currently the League One in England. We then had protests every game, fan protests to try and remove the then chief executive from the club, and this was consistently happening throughout our games. Towards the end of that season, the club subsequently suffered relegation into the third division at that time, now League Two. Jimmy Case was manager, and we went into the season as favourites to go back up, but I think the feeling around the place was a feeling of despair for the supporters, the fact that they were going to sell the stadium and we had no real place to go, no home to go to play the games. So those kind of protests continued. We then found ourselves by Christmas 12 points adrift at the bottom of the league, I think around about 12 points, and unfortunately Jimmy Case lost his job. Superman, fantastic guy Jimmy was. He was replaced with Steve Gritt, and from Christmas until the end of the season I think we had to win all of our home games. I think we won all of them bar one. We drew 4 each, I'm sure, against Leyton Orient. And on the last day of the season we gave ourselves an opportunity to stay up against Hereford. We needed a draw, and we got a 1-1 draw, and as I say, survived that season.
So that must be great now to see them in the Premier League pushing on, having great results against the top 6 this season, push for a top 10 finish. For an ex-player like yourself, you must be sitting there going, this is brilliant seeing them doing that.
No, absolutely. As I say, the people of Brighton, the supporters of Brighton deserve where they are just now, deserve the success for the backing that they gave their club in really difficult times, and I'm delighted to see the success, albeit at the moment led by an ex Hamilton teammate as well as assistant manager, and Billy Reid, who's doing a fantastic job.
So after your stint in England, you then moved back up to Scotland, playing for Partick Thistle, Dunfermline and Morton, and then ended your career quite nicely at Hamilton. Was that ever part of the plan, to start and then end your career at Hamilton, or was that just an opportunity that arose?
I think it's very difficult to have a plan in football, to be honest. I took the decision to leave Brighton to come back to Scotland. A decision kind of tinged with a wee bit of regret. I probably should have stayed in England a bit longer. I think it was a contract offer there for me. I was getting married that summer, so I thought, go back to Scotland, we'll settle back there. Moved to Dunfermline, which quite quickly proved to be the wrong move after a really short period of time. And then I became rather nomadic, to be honest, to my annoyance. Went to Partick Thistle, Morton, and then an opportunity arose to return to Hamilton, which I took. Ali Dawson asked me to return to the club. Slightly older than I was when I left, hell of a lot slower.
So after retiring, you then went on to be Academy Director at Kilmarnock, which is a fantastic job, I'm sure. What is that like to bring through the next generation of footballers, having been coming through the ranks at a young age yourself? What's that like to bring through the next generation of footballers?
I'm privileged, to be honest, with the support I get from the football club itself to try and deliver young players who are able to play in our first team. It's a fantastic job. I love it. It's a great job. I love being on the pitch with the players. I love to see their development from coming in when they're 9 years of age to when they get to 18 and they're training full time and playing in the reserves and sometimes getting an opportunity in the first team. So I get a lot of job satisfaction.
I'd like to touch briefly on a short stint as interim manager just after Lee McCulloch left. Was that something that you had to be convinced to do, or did they offer you the chance and you jumped at it? You thought, this is fantastic, let's go?
No, I had done it previously when Jim Jeffries left. I think I can't remember what year. I think it may have been 2008 and 2009. I think Jim Jeffries left the club, and I was myself and Alan Mahood were asked to oversee the first team training. Fortunately for the club, the game was off that Saturday. The game got called off, so we never actually got the opportunity to take the team. And then when the chance arose again, I was asked by Billy Bowie, the owner, and Kirsten Robertson, the then chief executive, if I would oversee first team. Myself and Andy Millen took the first team training and subsequently took the game against Partick Thistle, where we obviously won the game.
100% record, that's what you should write down. So it seems as if you really enjoyed that stint as interim manager, so if a management role came up again, is that something you'd be interested in? Maybe not at Killie, but at any Scottish club or any football club, is that something you'd be interested to go back into?
To be honest, first team management's not something that I've got a great appetite for. Mm-hmm. I think maybe my strength lies in the background, underneath, within the academy. Who's to say? Nobody knows what happens in football, particularly. If the opportunity arose again to do it on an interim basis, wherever, then yeah, I don't mind training, coaching, facilitating the first teams, but it's not something that I'm aspiring to.
Yeah. Not to sound as if I'm scouting for Hamilton at all, but any young players coming through Killie that maybe folk should look out for, any that are standing out to you in training?
Yeah, we have a number of young players actually. I won't name any of them, I don't want to put them under too much pressure, but like Accies, we've got a number of young players who we think have got an opportunity to maybe go and make a career for themselves, and as I say, we facilitate them, we give them a platform, we give them the opportunity, and it's up to them to show the desire, enthusiasm, the effort, the commitment, all of those things that they need to do to get into the first team.
So it must be great for you to watch clubs like Hamilton, who are known for giving young players a chance, always being academy director yourself, and like you said, Killie are very supportive of you, of bringing through young players. So what's it like to sit from an outside perspective to look at Hamilton bringing through these young players? Is that something you
hope Kelly will do more of? Is that something maybe you're looking at it and you think maybe too much too young? What's your kind of ideas on that from an outside perspective?
Again, every club's got their own individual model. Hamilton's has their model that they've worked on for a number of years successfully. So I would never tell anybody what the right model would be or what the wrong model is. I think it's about opportunity, and it's about the player being ready at the right time for the manager to select him and then taking that opportunity. And obviously Accies have showed that on a number of occasions where a lot of the young players have come in and done really well at the club and the team, and some have moved on, some are currently here, probably looking to bigger and better things, as you do as a professional footballer.
How would you say that football has changed through your day? Like I said, you're in charge of the next generation of football. So looking back at your time as a young player, how do you see the situation changing in professional football?
No, I think the game's changed hugely. There's a huge sports science input in the game, huge physical aspects into the game, nutrition, everything like that's added to what is needed now to be an everyday athlete on the football pitch. So the days of a wee scrawny winger coming in and playing in your first team, I think those days may have bypassed us. But I'd say to any young players is bust your backside, try your hardest every single day, look in the mirror, and it's never everybody else's fault. Sometimes you've got to look closer at home to see where the problems lie, and if you're honest with yourself, people will be honest with you.
It's a great message, is. And finally, to look back at your career, is there something in particular that stands out to you that makes you the most proud? Is there something you look back and think that's the thing that stands out to me?
I think earning a move to the Premier League in England was a huge thing for me. When you look at the situation, I was 25 years of age, so I wasn't a young player. I was playing in the Scottish First Division. So to jump from there at 25 into the Premier League in England, I don't think would ever happen now at that age. So I'm quite proud of that I was able to dig in and prove that I could get to that level. I wasn't as big a success at that level as I'd hoped to be, but as I say, it was that's probably the proudest part for me. And obviously you've got various experiences through making your debut. And I've come from a red ash pitch in June, and I made my debut in the Premier League in October. You travel a huge distance in a short period of time. So with things like that, and obviously other highlights throughout my time. My debut in England as well, for Southampton. Again, playing in the Premier League is a huge privilege for me. And as I say, various other opportunities and experiences that I've had. I'm relatively proud of some of them.
I feel like it'd be a great opportunity to end this. We've got you in New Douglas Park, got you in Hamilton Stadium. The first team's training just outside the window. It'd be rude not to ask you about Hamilton currently. We find ourselves in the playoff place, which we so often do. A few points ahead of Hearts, who look to be picking back up their form recently. Just a few points behind St Mirren. What do you think of Hackey's chances of staying up this season?
Well, I think Hamilton have the experience of being where they are. They know how to handle it. They have a good football guy as their manager, Brian Rice. Well-respected coach within the game. And he's shown no fear since he's come to the club as well, in terms of how he wants to play, the players that he wants to play, the young players he wants to get the opportunity to. So I think Hamilton have the experience to know where they are, and to have the belief to again survive and push on.
Well, Paul, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
And there you have it, guys, an interview with Paul McDonald. Once again, a huge thank you to Paul for coming in and speaking to us, and also a huge thanks to Hamilton Academical Football Club, who allowed us, New Douglas Park, to film this interview. If you guys liked what you saw and want to see more interviews like this, then go ahead and leave in the comment section who you would like to see me interview next. And don't forget to hit subscribe to never miss some OnlyAccies content. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you again soon.